Hi everyone, I just wanted to make a short video to help you while you're reviewing and studying for our upcoming test on adding and subtracting integers. Okay, so watch this video if you're still maybe struggling on addition and subtraction of positive and negative whole numbers. Real quick, before we get into examples, I just want to look at our flow chart of questions you should be asking yourself as we solve each of these problems. The very first thing that you want to look at is whether you have an addition or a subtraction problem. Okay, so looking at the problem you're given, is it already addition or is it subtraction? Remember, if it's addition, that's what we want. So if it's addition, you're going to jump over to these questions, and then you ask yourself, are these the same or are they different signs? Meaning, do I have two negatives that I'm adding together? That would be the same sign. Or do I have one positive and one negative? Those would be different signs. Once you figure that out, then we jump to actually solving these problems, which is, remember, if they're the same sign, you add them as if they were positive, and you keep the sign that you started with. So like two negatives added together would give me a negative answer. Or are they different signs? And remember, if they're different signs, you're going to subtract the bigger number minus the smaller number and keep the sign of that bigger value. Now, if it's subtraction, the first thing we want to do is rewrite it as an addition problem. We're going to do lots of examples on this video of, remember, keep the first number, change it to plus, and then take the opposite of that second number. The reason we rewrite it as addition is because then we have the same rules as earlier that we can follow. So again, once it's in addition, then you can ask same or different signs and jump down to how we solved them before. Let's start by looking at these two examples, which are both already addition for us. I went ahead and highlighted that plus sign so that we know it's addition. First thing you want to ask yourself once it's addition is, are these the same signs? Are they different signs? Let's start with the first example of -5 plus -10. Looking at this problem, I see a negative and a negative. So we have the case of the same sign. So I am going to add them together as if they were positive. So 5 plus 10, which gives me 15. Now remember, at this point, you want to keep your original sign. So my original sign, I was adding two negatives together, so my final answer is going to be -15. Now the next example, -6 plus 8, is slightly different because here I have a negative, but my 8 is a positive 8. So this is a case of when I have different signs. So I'm no longer going to add those two numbers together. As soon as I see that I have different signs, you are going to subtract. Remember, the bigger number minus the smaller number. So 6 and 8. 8 is my bigger value, so I'm going to do 8 minus 6, which gives me 2. Now I have to check, well, what sign do I want my answer to be? In this case, you keep the sign of your bigger number. So my bigger value is 8, which was positive, so my final answer is +2. Remember, we don't normally write the positive signs. I'm just doing it in this video to make sure you are aware that my final answer is positive. Now in these two examples, they are subtraction problems. And again, I went ahead and highlighted the subtraction signs. I do not see a plus sign anywhere, so these are not addition problems, which means the very first thing we need to do is to rewrite as an addition problem. Remember, to do that, we keep the first number, change the minus sign to a plus sign, and then take the opposite of that second number. So let's take a look on this first problem of 5 minus 12 and what that looks like. We are keeping the first number, we are changing the minus sign to a plus sign, and we are taking the opposite of that second number. So 5 minus 12 is the same thing as 5 plus -12. Let's go ahead and rewrite the second example too before we start solving. I'm keeping my first number, 6, changing that subtraction to addition, and then taking the opposite of my second number. Now this time the opposite of negative 11 is positive 11. Now that we have addition problems, we are ready to ask ourselves same or different signs. Looking at this first one, I see one negative. So these are different signs. You always want to look at the rewritten problem to tell if they're the same or different signs. So I'm looking at this, not the original problem. So these are different signs, which means I subtract. 12 minus 5, that gives me 7. I'm keeping the sign of the bigger number. And my bigger number in this case was 12, which was my negative. So my final answer is negative 7. Again, once I have it rewritten as subtraction or as addition, I see that they're different signs, so I subtract, keep the sign of my bigger number, which was negative, which is why my answer is negative 7. Looking at the next one, these are now the same signs. They are both positive. So I'm going to add them, 11 plus 6, which gives me 17. They started both positive, so my answer is definitely going to be positive, of positive 17. So we've now looked at 4 different examples, 2 addition problems, 2 subtraction problems, to help you review and get ready for your upcoming test. I hope it helps.